So France then initially proposed it. The US got behind it, closely followed by other nations, including, crucially, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and as well the whole of the European Union. A joint call then, following intense discussions issued at the UN General Assembly for an immediate 21-day ceasefire across the Israel-Lebanon border. Now, all that as Israel has continued to widen its airstrikes in Lebanon. We heard in the last hour, in fact, Israel saying it targeted 75 Hezbollah positions overnight. At least 72 people were killed and over 200 wounded yesterday alone. Israel's military as well, also saying that a ground assault is possible, raising fears, of course, that conflict could spark a much wider war. We're going to talk in just a moment to Leela Jacinto from our International Affairs Desk, and also joining us from Jerusalem is our correspondent Irris Makler. Irris, it's early days, isn't it? But what's the initial reaction there, would you say, to this idea for a 21-day ceasefire?
You know, last night we had the Israeli media reporting that there was some movement on this and an Israeli team was looking at it. Today we heard from Sky News, not talking to local sources from what I can determine, saying that it will happen within a matter of hours. And this morning we've heard from the Israeli Prime Minister's office that it is under consideration. I think it's also significant that the Israeli Prime Minister has put one of his top aides, Ron Dermer, originally American-born, onto this. And it's also significant that it's coming as the Prime Minister has flown into New York, into the family of nations for his speech at the General Assembly tomorrow. So all of those things together let you see that there is a head of steam behind this proposal. We do know that what we know so far, let me put it like that, is the 21-day term seems to be quite clear. But will it involve Gaza? That's not clear. You know, other terms aren't as obvious. And an interesting thing about Gaza and could Hamas be involved is that according to reports locally, you know, Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader, first the Hamas leader in Gaza, now the Hamas leader overall, hasn't been seen for 3 weeks, has no incommunicado, including to Arabic sources. So what that means is it's very hard to negotiate with him. We can make it very hard to include a term about Gaza in any ceasefire.
Leela Jacinto from our International Affairs Desk is also with me here. And say, Leela, we're hearing off the record, aren't we, that the US is saying this deal would be between Israel and the Lebanese government, but doesn't it need to be between Israel and Hezbollah?
Of course, isn't that always the case? I mean, U.S. officials are saying that the Lebanese government will coordinate with Hezbollah on its acceptance. This is another whole ball game, given the internal dynamics in Lebanon. Lebanon, of course, is a country with a very weak state institutions and a government, and even the Lebanese army is not militarily as strong as Hezbollah, and Hezbollah has been described as a state within a state. There is not that much optimism about the ceasefire from the people in Lebanon that I am speaking to. There are real hopes for it because there is a real fear of an all-out war. But a lot of Lebanese people say that this is just merely a statement. They don't see really a way out unless Hezbollah yields on its own condition, which is a Gaza ceasefire, which is what Irris is talking about. And that Gaza ceasefire deal, there's some hope that this 21-day period could be used to work towards a resolution of, on the one hand, the Israeli-Lebanon crisis and also on the Gaza ceasefire deal. If a Gaza ceasefire deal happens, that's an obvious off-ramp because that is Hezbollah's condition. So the question is, will Hezbollah accept, this deal which does not talk about a Gaza ceasefire deal? Because Hezbollah's position has always been, if there's a Gaza ceasefire deal, we go back to October 6th and we stop those crossfire exchanges and there will be the old status quo, which has existed since the 2006, the last war between Israel and Lebanon.
And it's interesting, isn't it, Irris, there in Jerusalem again? I mean, at the moment, anyway, there doesn't seem to be any pause at all from Israel's military. We heard that figure of, they say they struck 75 Hezbollah targets overnight. 72 more people were killed in Lebanon yesterday, with another 200 wounded.
That's right. I have to say, there's no let-up on either side. Rocket fire from Hezbollah into Israel still continuing, Israeli airstrikes continuing. What I think is quite interesting is that much of the running on this has been done by the Israeli military, which isn't normally quite so talkative. So we've seen the chief of staff saying there must be a ground offensive. We've seen announcements that that they have called up 2 more reserve officers divisions, and that they're now training in the north. Field hospitals are being set up. So all of that is the military point of view. And I think that's because, first of all, it's been a bad week for Hezbollah militarily, a good week for Israel militarily. And the feeling amongst the military, of course, is if you've got victory in your nostrils, you keep going. Perhaps also some vindication, because if there's a victory here, it might make up for the failure on October the 7th in Gaza, the year's anniversary coming up now. So that's the military position. But there is an interesting, there are 2 views now. If Israel has done well militarily over the past 10 days, there are those who say, don't give Hezbollah a reprieve. The only person who would benefit from a 21-day ceasefire would actually be Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah. That's one argument that's put. Another argument that's put is when you're winning is a good time to step back because your enemy is weakened and you can press for your diplomatic results, for the diplomatic targets that you want to achieve. And I've heard that from military analysts as well. So it will be very interesting to see if, while Netanyahu is in Washington, in New York, at the UN General Assembly, he will be able to take part in these discussions, or if it will end, as people on the ground fear, in failure.
Irris, thanks very much. Irris Makler joining us there from Jerusalem. Leela Jacinto is still with us. I mean, Irris was saying there, Leela, that about those weapons and about Hezbollah. I mean, Hezbollah's always said that its weapons are a good deterrent, hasn't it? I mean, it doesn't seem to be working at this stage, does it?
Oh, no, it's not working. And in fact, Hezbollah's argument, Hezbollah is supposed to draw down its arms. This is part of a UN resolution, which Hezbollah has not complied with. But Hezbollah's argument that its arms and its military might, which far exceeds the military might of the Lebanese army, it has been a deterrent. That deterrent, as you say, is obviously not working because Israel feels extremely emboldened. And, one of the things that Irris mentioned was, Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. Now, when he made a speech after the explosions of last week, he actually told Israel, welcome to a ground offensive in southern Lebanon. We await you. Now, it's interesting how the lessons of history are not learned because we've been here before. This was 18 years ago in the 2006 wars. One of the goals of that war was, one, sidelining Hezbollah, and 2, having a deterrence. The deterrence worked so far, but it never sidelined Hezbollah. Hezbollah simply got more powerful after 2006. So there is a lot of opposition within Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition, the far-right members. They say that they should, push to an advantage. They don't seem to realize that getting into southern Lebanon is a quagmire that many past Israeli prime ministers have realized have not been worth it. But, we're coming up to the anniversary of the October 7th attacks, and it really looks like, Israel does not have any victory to show on the Gaza front, and we are being dragged into this new regional escalation, really.
Finally, Leela, let's try and get away from the politics if we can. I mean, what about people on the streets of Lebanon? I mean, are they united? Are they divided? What's the view there?
Well, getting the pulse of the Lebanese national opinion can be tricky. Lebanon is divided into many confessional groups, and that's what determines politics in Lebanon. When it comes to an Israeli invasion, you tend to get unity in Lebanon because they see this as an invasion by a foreign military. So even though the current conflict does not involve the Lebanese army and military, if Israel attacks, the Lebanese military will see that as a foreign invasion, and it has in the past coordinated with Hezbollah. So in the face of an Israeli incursion, yes, the Lebanese people do not want war. And opinion poll after the October 7th attacks shows that the majority of Lebanese people do not want the war into their country. They definitely sympathize largely with the Palestinian cause. For nearly a year, they are seeing what is happening in Gaza. But there are some opposition politicians who are asking very pertinent questions about Hezbollah's deterrence, the very argument that we talk about. I mean, and they claim that Hezbollah's weapons has not proved to be a deterrence. It is dragging Lebanon into the war. But the Lebanese people are, feel that they're really not agents in what is happening.